So I see strategy as priority. It's prioritization of resources, right? You have unlimited options, but you have limited resources, time, money, people, etc. And so how you choose to allocate those resources against the unlimited options is your strategy. It is how you prioritize. And when you have one clear goal for one clear company, for one clear customer, the prioritization actually gets pretty easy. And so a lot of people keep looking for these unique insights when the reality is you don't even have a goal. Have you defined the problem that you're trying to solve? And most people haven't. And that ends up being usually the first question I ask someone. They're like, hey, I'm stuck with my business. And I just say, well, what's the goal? And then they say something. I say, well, what problem are you solving right now? And so if you can't clearly state current state, desired state, obstacle, you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off. You're not going to solve anything. You're going to do a lot of work, but you're not going to move forward. A mentor of mine said this to me, and I've always kept this in mind. He said, your best talent, you haven't even hired yet. Your best talent is in the future. And so let's run a thought experiment for a second. Everybody who's listening to this has that one teammate who's just an absolute stud, hopefully. If you don't, I'm sorry for you. But at least one person on your team is pretty good. If you had 10 of those people, would you be able to make way more money? The answer is almost always unequivocally, yes, I'd be able to make way more money. And so then the follow-up is, then why is all of your attention not to getting more of those people? If you listen to the Steve Jobs, the Bezoses, the Bill Gateses, Elons, so many of them, Zuckerberg, so many of them talk about talent. And in the early days of entrepreneurship, I thought that they were trying to hide the secrets. But it's really that they were talking about what they were focused on now. And as I continue to do business, the more I just care about who rather than what or how. Because if you really do have the right who, you're one hire away from somebody who's 100 times smarter than you, who's done this way longer than you have, who can help you grow the business. And so one of the telltale signs that you have bad people on your team, or people who are too dumb, or your standards are too low, is that you have stupid rules. And I'm somebody who's done this. So this isn't me preaching here. This is something that I've now realized, is that if you have to have a rule that's like, hey, everybody, you have to show up on time. Hey, don't drink while you're on the job. Hey, like you can't watch Netflix while you're working. Like that's not a good thing. By the way, all of these are rules that I have implemented at some time in a business that I've owned. And I'm telling you this now because it seems so painfully obvious that if I have to say, don't watch Netflix while you're on a customer service call with a customer, that shouldn't be a rule. That should be an obvious thing that anyone with half a brain cell can figure out. But what that really meant is that if you start making stupid rules, it's because your standards are too low and you're hiring stupid people. Every person you hire, you want to raise the average bar of the team that they're getting hired into. I literally used this yesterday with someone that we were interviewing. Layla was like, what do you think about this person? I said, well, do they raise the bar of the team? And he was like, I was like, all right, well then there's our answer. Because the thing is that all companies will, unless controlled for, dilute down talent. So people, sixes will hire fives, five will hire fours will hire threes, and people will always hire people that they're not threatened from because they want security first. And so you have to implement something like this because the reverse can also be true. Imagine if every single time you hired somebody, it raised the bar of the team, then the team will just continue to get better and better and smarter people, and the company will grow and grow and grow. And I have a fundamental belief that the level of a business grows kind of like a Christmas tree, where you've got the number and intelligence of brains that goes up. So if you have lots and lots and lots of really intelligent brains, the size of this business is huge. If you only have one brain that's intelligent and everyone underneath of that has a subset of the skills of that one brain, then it's only one brain that's competing against companies that have 100 smart brains. And that was something that in my early days, every person I hired, I could do their job better than them, and I trained them to do everything they did, which meant the limit of the business was me. I had to literally keep learning things, which you always have to do, of course, but I had to learn everything from scratch. And so the business then had to suffer what a day one customer success rep would deal with because I didn't know anything about customer success. And so the idea is I would rather bring someone in who has 10 years of experience in customer success so that we can start the business on year 10 of customer success. I want that person to have learned all those lessons on someone else's dollar. And then when they come to me, have all those lessons so I don't need the scars. I think it's the Peter principle, which is that people will advance to their point of incompetency. And so someone does really well at sales, and so then you put them in a sales manager. and then they've never managed a sales team and they don't do really well at that, but they get promoted to their point of incompetence. So I lost a good salesperson and I got a bad sales manager. And this is how most of corporations are run. People do well, and then their role changes into something they've never done before, and then they do poorly, and they get stuck there or they get fired. And most times, because the person who promoted them feels bad, they just get stuck there. And so you've got all these people who you still have positive associations with the work that they did, and you feel like you owe them because they did do a good job one time before, but now they're doing a poor job because they're not properly equipped and you didn't give them the skills to succeed, and they don't have the experience. And yes, that's your fault. But the thing is you can't fire you because you own the company. So somebody's got to go. And so either you got to move them aside, you redefine the role and move someone ahead of them, or you have to get rid of them. And again, this is what makes business hard. It's not that it's complicated. It's that you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. And I get that. That's what makes hard conversations hard. If you hate somebody, firing them is very easy, right? Like if someone stole from you, firing is not personal experience there. I slept fine that night. All right. It's the conversation with someone that you know is trying their best, that you really like as a human being, but isn't cutting it. And even if you think you could get them there, you're not willing to invest the resource to do it because it doesn't make sense. I could wait for someone to learn neurosurgery. And I think people could, but it might take a decade. And I don't know if I really want to invest all that time when I could just go find a neurosurgeon. And yeah, I might have to pay more, but I'd rather pay that than pay 10 years. Once I really understood the value of people, the way that we grew businesses completely changed. It stopped being about building businesses and became way more about assembling the teams that build the business. Like one of the core functions we do at acquisition.com, probably the thing that we invest the most resources into is recruiting talent. Like there's a reason that we go really hard on LinkedIn because people respond to our messages and we're like, hey, you ran all the ads at this $200 million per year direct-to-consumer business. We have a direct-to-consumer business that's at 20 million. Would you be willing to take it from 20 to 200 because we think you have the experience, or do you know anybody who does? And because we have a following there, we get the responses and we can get that level of talent. But that level of talent's not coming in for 100 grand a year. You can moan all you want that, oh, these employees want so much money, but there's a marketplace. There's a rate. And if you're not willing to pay it, there's a company that is smarter than you that is willing to pay it because they know the return on it. And I still think to this day, one of the biggest arbitrage that exists in business is paying a talent, a wages to get 10x the output. So let me drive this home. So you can get a B player. Let's use $100,000 as the baseline. So I want to hire a role for $100,000 for this thing. And a B player in the role will take 80. And a B plus might take 90 or 100. But there might be an A plus guy who's like 170. And it's like, whoa, that's like twice our budget for this role. But if that guy or gal has the output, like an A player can get you 5x, 10x the output of a B player, meaning 5 people who are B players at $100,000 a year equal 1 A plus at 170. That's still a great return and better than hiring 5 Bs. And especially in knowledge work. So if you have anything that has to do with thinking and not like where literally more hands are required to do the work, the outsized return on intelligence is so high that I still see it as one of the fundamental arbitrage that exists in business. How much time you save by hiring somebody who knows exactly what to do, how it drives revenue in the business, and they can use 10 years of experience that you don't have to pay. So I would rather pay 25%, 30% more for somebody, 50% more for somebody who can move me 10 years forward. Like it seems almost silly when you frame it like that not to, but the thing is every day, small business owners want to save $5,000 on an annual salary for somebody who they know is perfect for the job.